Hi, I'm Lou Rosalia, and this is Crew Call. Creativity, today's most in demand soft skill. That's what we're going to explore today in our show. And joining us, Frank Ferro, Joe Ferro, and Scott Glozzi. Welcome, guys. Everything cool?
Everything's wonderful.
You got your Rick and Morty shirt on. We got
No,
JB Smoove over there.
Rugrats.
it's
Yeah.
not Rick and Morty.
Come on.
No, who is
First
it?
of all, it's not just Rugrats. That's the entire
Oh,
Nickelodeon cast.
you know,
Who's
I
that?
only saw the Reptar part,
It's
and I
Rugrats. Rugrats.
There's Reptar,
Yeah.
It's
Nigel Thornberry in there. I see Gerald from Hey Arnold,
Oh,
Heifer.
God.
Ren and Stimpy.
I'm the worst at that. The worst. The worst. Okay, so listen, talk about creativity. And being a soft skill. And you guys know what a soft skill is? It's something that you're not actually making something, it's something you're more creating, hence creativity. So I read a great article that said kind of 10 years ago, if you weren't a tech company, you were dead in the water. Whereas today, if you're not a creative company, even if it is in tech, you're dead in the water. And the propellant that made that happen was the fact that technology became so good that it took all the worry away from things that would help you, that would block your creativity or your creative process. So I said, you know what, in the entertainment and media and production industry, that's a pretty big thing. I mean, years ago, I would imagine, I'm going to start with Joe, with the synthesizer world. Synths are deep in your world and your upbringing and DNA. When they were hard patched wires and all that other stuff, it had to be a lot longer to do something and be creative than it was today. So that would be a prime example of it. Am I speaking out of school, Joe? Is that making any sense?
no, you're not. It makes sense, but
But
as always, you have to go back in time and be there. So your creativity was thinking of how to patch stuff. The creativity was, I'm going to make this go to this. It's like having a bunch of ingredients and trying to figure out how to combine them. So you didn't know that you were being burdened down because it had just exploded your brain with opportunity. With that, let me qualify the only part of that became, and that's what launched my career, was all that technology was built by engineers. So the terms they used were engineering terms, and they were alien to musicians.
is patch one of those terms?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's one of the simple ones. But like oscillator, ADSR,
Yeah. Yeah.
voltage controlled filter, all those things were, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, those were deep engineering terms, and they threw them on the front panel of this stuff
Yeah.
and said, have at it. So again, that was where I laid in the middle of that, because I was engineering at the time, but I was also a substantial qualified musician. So I could translate both back and forth, telling engineers, no, call it source. I can go back to the musician and say, what this is the tone. And that's how it moved around. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I remember going to Sam Ash out on Long Island and looking at the early synths that came out, and just the board with the dials and knobs. Fix my teeth. They were all symbols, right? It was not, they were like wave signs. Like you didn't even know what the hell they were. But I guess as an engineer, you would. As a musician,
Yeah.
you would have no clue, none
Yep.
whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Frank, you have been working cameras for quite a while, since a young age. Giving that time frame and the advances that have been made, we were talking a 10-year period, as the example of the article I read. Have you found yourself freer to be more creative with a camera now that technology has been packed into what what you're using?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean,
How's
the advancement of just like different camera systems that there are. Like I mean I'll use the Jitacam as as a perfect example, because that that's probably, now it probably is, I guess, somewhere close to 10 years old, but me actually working with it
Mhm.
consistently for about 3 or 4 years. Um, I mean, coming from doing jib on the ground, which has been around forever, and similar to cranes in movies and all that kind of stuff, where it's been around forever, turning that upside down and hanging it from a ceiling and having, or from a grid in the sky, um, totally gives, switches a completely different perspective and gives you a lot more opportunities to be creative, whether you use that tool to its fullest extent to actually be creative with it. I mean, that's the difference, and that's where they, as a company, only would only allow people into that inner circle to really show it off, be creative and really show it off. um, so yeah, the advancement of technology is always going to be, should always enhance your creativity, but it's also could be the other way around. Which, that's the whole way that this thing was built in the first place, was someone looking at something and being creative about how else can we do this. It would be
Right.
cool if we could do it this way, or or look at something from here and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of drove the advancement of that technology.
Do you? I got a follow-up question. Do you ever get nostalgic about it and say, "Geez, I remember when to do this, I had to do all this stuff to get that."
Um, Not yet. I'm sure. I've heard those things
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Everybody I work with,
Yeah, yeah.
for that are somewhere 10 to 15 at least years older than me. Maybe not so
Joe,
much anymore.
you hear him dancing around that? He doesn't wanna say the older guys on the
But
Yeah.
it is that, and
yeah,
they'll say, yeah, I remember we kind of accomplished the same thing or similar thing, but had to do this, and that. Exactly
yeah,
what you're saying. So, and I'm sure, in another 10 years, when there's something even crazier out, that then hopefully I'll be working on that. But then I'll be like, oh, I remember when we used to have to do this to get this shot, or to accomplish this look, or
yep.
whatever it is at that point.
Claus, speaking of I remember when, let's go to gaming for a second. How much more creative have games gotten now that technology has allowed you to pack in a whole bunch of stuff? I mean, Joe and I remember Pong, which was just nothing, and then, coming up till that's the extreme end of nothingness. But, within recent time frames, like that 10-year period, how much happened?
A lot, man. You guys said you don't want us to call us old, but you're referencing Pong out
Yeah,
here.
I don't know why he said that. I was going to say I don't even know what he's talking about.
Oh
So
man, yeah,
Pong, yeah, Pong's when I go down to the Chinese restaurant, that's something I get. So I don't know what he meant by that.
Number
no,
7, please. White
that's
meat
great.
only.
Yeah, Gloss.
No, but yeah, gaming tech is crazy now. Like I've come up as my whole family loved to game. I have a ton of cousins. Vivid memories or spending Christmas Eve gaming together. Doing stupid stuff. But I just picked up the Oculus or I'm sorry, the Oculus, the Meta Quest. Sorry, and it is
Wait.
absolutely
Hang on. You got to define it. I don't even know what a meta
too
quest
many
is.
too many words there.
Go ahead.
No, it's virtual reality. It's a virtual
Got it.
reality headset, and the technology in this thing is crazy. I know virtual reality has been around for a while now, but I feel like it's finally at the point where I have a headset on. I'm not plugged into a computer, and I can mess around and I can go play a shooting game. And my handles are my guns. Like it's so crazy, and I feel like it's not only gonna be used for gaming, but there's a lot of productivity aspects to the headset now. So the technology is it's advanced enough where you can go in and kind of have these different worlds, and you can do what you want to do. If I want to go in and be productive, they have things that's like virtual desktop. Like I can go in and have my monitors in front of me. I don't think you can't edit projects yet, but when that happens, I promise you, I will be in my room sitting here like this with my headset on, editing video products in virtual reality. And I know that's going to happen soon because they're making all these advances with the
Yeah.
productivity side of the headsets. So
Yeah,
it's really cool. It's really, really cool technology.
just a
Is it
matter of time.
not true that you built a virtual rendering of your room as it is now, and then sat in your room with
in
the
your room.
headset on, looking around your virtual room.
That is true. And it looked great. My room looked fantastic. It
That's
was clean.
crazy.
It was spotless. Everything was where it needed to be.
That's
You know,
crazy.
I didn't have to pick up
That's
my clothes.
You get a
No,
whole
yeah,
cam.
I did.
It's like, did you clean your room? Yes, mom. Look, you throw up the throw up
Throw
the
up the virtual
virtual
reality.
screen.
No, you can literally map things out. So if I'm in a space and there's a chair or a desk, there's now a feature that Oculus has where you can go in and you can actually map, like you draw an actual line in virtual reality around where your chair is or around where your desk is, and then it knows that, you know, it puts that in virtual reality. It kind of makes like a virtual version of the chair. So if I want to, you know, not stand, I can sit down. I'm not going to fall on my ass and not knowing where my chair is, you know. So those things are cool too. Like Frank said, I built a virtual layout of my room.
And it's
That's
also like it has that same feel of what's the thing that the Mandalorian kind of they use their entire
The
production on?
volume,
The
the set,
volume,
yeah.
right? So it's kind of like that whole, which we've talked about in like, I don't know, episode 1 or 2 of
yeah,
this.
yeah. That was that
Where it's
giant
that whole
room with the green screen and all the cameras around the whole thing.
right,
Coolest
and it's
thing
kind
ever.
of that concept of how they did all these games, because you have the headset on. If you're looking like all the way around that way, like you're seeing a different part. It's not you're not turning the whole thing like that. There's something else over there, as if the same thing as if you turn around, you're seeing a completely different thing than if you're looking
Mhm.
this way or that way or over
It's
there.
immersive. It's so immersive. It's like it feels like you're in a new environment.
That's
Meanwhile, I'm standing in my room.
I do have to qualify one thing because I'm a techno geek and I respect technology. The volume is not green screen.
No, not at all.
No, Lou said.
Excuse
said-
me.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh, I
I'm
didn't even
sorry.
hear him say that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right.
yeah,
That's
no,
why
it's taking the place of green screens. Yeah.
That's why you guys are the pros.
It replaced the green screen. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to do it.
I went into I saw the Van Gogh exhibit in New York. This whole immersive exhibit thing. It was really, really cool. You should go see it because I'm figuring this is going to be crap because Van Gogh is all about texture and actually looking at his paintings. But the way they did it was amazing. But the funny thing is I had a crowd of 4-5 people with me, and I went on this virtual reality tour of his place in France where he where he did his paintings, the town, the whole thing. It was beautiful. But I'm like, I'm never able to see the paintings. They were always behind me. For some reason, they were all hysterical laughing at me, the rest of my crew. And they're like, why? I said, I never saw the front of the painting. I guess something happened with my set where it brought me through the entire 20 minutes of the thing backwards. I thought I was on like a backwards thing. I was doing that was my vantage point, watching everything as it came by this way. And
You
they're
were
like,
sitting on the train. You were sitting on the subway the other way.
totally. It was totally like Southwest Airlines. I had that shitty seat. Anyway, talking about crappy seats, Frank, I want to go to you. In your broadcast environment, you work with such amazing high-tech equipment, and then we come over to the other side of our business, FerroCity and all this other stuff. And like everybody else, we were forced to use not inferior equipment, but I don't know, less able equipment for meetings and all the Zoom stuff and GoToMeeting, whatever you want to call it.
At
Is
home
it-
equipment.
Yeah, exactly. At home equipment. Is it frustrating for you, like jumping from one professional high-end area of broadcast and then saying, okay, next hat, I got to do a little home equipment stuff? What's that like?
It's much simpler. I mean, I'm happy to, plop a USB camera on the top, and this is all I have to do, not run, 50 feet of cable and make sure I'm connecting everything correctly, and then be on the phone with the video guy in the truck and all that, and then making sure I have control of my camera and doing all that. So if I had to come home and it was that complicated to get on a meeting and talk to the three of you, yeah, I would never stop working. I mean, I work enough as it is right now. I don't need to come home and have this be work.
So this is a perfect case of technology freeing you to be a little bit more creative and relaxed in terms of the home stuff
Yeah,
to a
I mean,
certain degree.
which there is another level above this
Yeah.
of those at home kits and stuff like that, but it's still not to that crazy level.
Yeah. Gloss, I'm giggling because it's happened in our last show and it just happened now. The technology gremlins seem to attack you pretty robustly. That's a callback, folks.
I hate those guys.
Do those curves kind of throw your creativity off for the show coming up? Like when it happens, like, oh geez, my camera just went out. What do you think it diminishes
Oh.
it, or does it get you pumped up? Like, damn it, I'm going to beat this.
You mean like when something goes wrong?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, oh yeah, it happens all the time. Probably more than when things go right, I'd say. Uh, but no, I think I've actually told this story before, and it was actually a good example of when a piece of technology just completely failed me, a critical piece of technology on my Steadicam. And it was at New Year's Eve, Times Square, when I was shooting. It was literally my first shot of the show. I had a long tracking shot, which is like a right to left shot of the fans. I was going to pull off of them and do a big sweeping move, and with a zoom up to the stage, which is where our host was standing. And I'm not even kidding. The director goes, "All right, go for camera 4, take 4," and I'm not. As he said, take, my monitor, my camera monitor cut out completely, and I couldn't see my shot. So I'm live. I have the red tally light on my camera, and I'm walking. I'm just hoping that I have a good frame. And I get to the end of my track. I do the push. I kind of didn't zoom as much as I was going to. And I hear the director's like, "All right, great shot. Let's move on. Like, take the next camera." So I kind of just got maybe a little bit of luck, a little bit of instincts
Yeah,
kicked
yeah.
in, but that was a perfect example of technology. You never know what's going to happen. And when it does happen, like something like that, you got to just roll with the punches and do the best job you can with the
Yeah.
hand you're dealt, as Frank would say.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So those things definitely happen, and it's a pain, but yeah, you gotta roll with it, figure out the best way out of it. Every problem
Joe,
has a solution.
yeah, it's exactly right. Joe, I want to ask you, you're blessed with being a musician and an engineer and amongst other things. Do you think today's generation that are coming up on this new equipment, the iPhone, whatever the hell it is, that can do scanning of things, and uh, Gloz just spoke about his virtual reality thing that can create rooms. Do you think they're missing out on part of the creative process, not knowing the fundamentals of how that stuff works?
No,
Boy, so
because every creative starts somewhere, and they start with whatever the equivalent technology is and the equivalent social being is and what that is. So they start there, and then they build out their creativity. And then if they get to the next level, the next person starts there and they build out their creativity. The difference is those of us who have seen several tiers already evolve.
right.
For us, it's different because our native technology and our native tools are grounded a little deeper. So it takes us a little bit more to adjust to that. And many, 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 many of my peers don't make that adjustment. And to me, I don't know why, because it's so much more creative. When I see things like what Gloz was just describing, when Frank talks about Jittercam, when we talk about robos, we talk about, amplifiers, we talk about anything we talk about that's evolved technology, it's amazing. But I will give you one insight that is disappointing to me. And I'll go back to when you asked me about synthesizers.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since evolved to the point of push a button, make this sound. Push this button, now it's a trumpet. Push this button, and now it's a violin, which is good, but it doesn't give the individual that full palette of expansion. You can't go in and paint a violin the way you want, or that violin has to sound like a violin. But maybe I want my trumpet to have a bow sound on my trumpet. So you don't have that quick ability. And I'm generalizing. I know there's a lot of synths that do allow you to have that. But those are the kinds of evolutions that go commercial. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And they take away some of the nuance that should have been in place, and it's the reason it developed.
So, Lou, can I just say something? Like,
please,
kind of go off of what he was saying, based off of what your question is. Like you said, it's not. You're not being less creative having the technology you have now, and like Joe said, starting there. But what I will say is, if you really respect like that industry or that craft that you do, and you have a deep appreciation for it, you
Yes.
should, if you don't, at least learn and understand where everything started from, because then that gives you just a
Yeah.
better understanding of everything as it is.
Yeah. You'll backfill. Yeah. Yeah.
Derivation,
Yeah,
derivation.
and like how you got to here, and then you'd be like, "Oh wow, this is crazy." And then I mean, then if you happen to get on a job and they don't have the new equipment or something like that, and you get thrown something back there, and you're the only one that happens to have any knowledge about how a synthesizer or how you're patching certain
Yeah.
things or something like that, then yeah, then you already have it.
Frank, I'm going to stay with you. I want to talk about evolution because that was just brought up. What app or what's on a phone or what's like in your hand today that you would say, wow, I never ever thought I'd be able to do this on my phone in terms of, broadcast or cutting or editing or music or anything like that?
I was gonna say dating apps, but
Swipe, swipe, swipe.
um, it's funny. I don't even think I really use anything like that has to do with my. I mean, other than like just what phones the camera can do. I mean, if
Uh-huh.
that's considered an app, I mean, it's pretty standard. But I guess it technically is an app. Or like editing those photos, or that there's editing software. I know that there's apps for that. I don't personally use any of those, but they do exist, which is, I mean, pretty wild that, you think back, what, 15 years ago before or anything, that, to edit a photo, you would have to have a Photoshop membership and have that. And, anytime I would, had photos or something, I would go to like Swen and be like, can you do this to this or do that? And then he would teach me some simple little thing. And then I had Photoshop, and he would just teach me a simple thing to just kind of tweak each photo to make them look a little better, which is just very simply put. But then it's now, like you said, now it's at your fingertips on an app, and anybody can do that. And they make it so simple where it's
Yeah.
not, you're not learning unless you go back and learn all that stuff of where it really derived from.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because handling social media stuff. I'm watching Instagram, just monitoring stuff and going through things. And I'm like, does this person really look like this? Because like their skin's perfect, their eye shape changes. And I'm like, then you see those where they do that swipe and you see their real look in their other one. I'm like, to your point, to get
Yeah.
that done, you had to have a great makeup artist years ago, or you had to have Photoshop and take hours of just plowing through all that stuff.
Or
Yeah,
just
that's a good point.
SD.
Yeah. So
Not high
we've
definition.
we've turned this conversation right back to dating apps, haven't we? Gloss, I want to ask you about urban visuals. Is there any pieces of equipment or technology that you either have or wish you had or will be getting that you would say, wow, this can really take it up to the next level? I know you already mentioned the the visual
VR. Yeah.
virtual reality. That's the new sign for virtual
Yeah.
reality.
My next camera.
Yeah.
No. I think I do a lot. I shoot a lot of projects with my gimbal, with my Ronin. So I'll go to that just because it's really versatile and you can use it for a lot of things. Frank and I with Joe, actually, we just shot this documentary we worked on with two gimbals, and that was the extent of it. We didn't change camera configurations once. We shot the entire thing. So we went from, shooting walk and talks to shooting, around New York City, shooting in a cab, shooting at dinner time. So it's just such a versatile piece of equipment. It's small and it's compact enough where you can fit it in a cab. I can't bring a Steadicam in a cab and shoot an interview. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question as a layman.
Sure.
What is a gimbal and how much are they?
A gimbal. Okay, so I'm talking about a 3-axis gimbal. It's motorized. It's called. I have a DJI Ronin, and it's small. I was looking for it. I don't have it in here, but it's basically a handle and then an act with 3 axes that all rotate that are motorized, and it keeps the camera perfectly still. It's probably more still that I could keep it on a Steadicam, but you can always tell the difference between the look of a gimbal and a Steadicam. Steadicam has more. You can tell that it has these little movements that are human movements. A gimbal is very much like it's
robotic.
Exactly. It's a robotic camera as opposed to a hand, not a handheld, but a manned camera. So yeah, it's a versatile piece of equipment that I probably use for 60-70% of my shoots, that I probably couldn't live without.
Frank, I want to ask you a question. You spoke a couple episodes ago about the new drone you got and the way that it was able to hold the horizon where prior it couldn't. I
Mhm.
forgot the technical term for that, but is that because it was on a gimbal prior and now they figured out how to stop moving that gimbal? Is that
Well,
kind of
they'll
what
just
happened?
yeah, they all had gimbals, and it's the same company that makes that Ronin, but
Oh,
they can you have the option to lock it.
ah,
So instead of it while you're moving like that, the cameras either can stay like that or you can lock it into place so it's moving with the actual drone.
And
So
going
yeah.
back to what Lou asked about the apps that we were
mhm.
surprised about,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't say that, because
Yeah, I guess.
the DJI app, you fly, and your smartphone is now not only your monitor, but your wow, your entire camera controls.
Yeah.
So the technology is awesome about what you're carrying in your pocket. You can control your camera and your drone. So
Another,
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't even think of that,
yeah.
but yeah,
I
that's
want to,
kind
I
of
want to ask a question about
that's
this.
my answer, Lou, to your other question.
Thank you
The
very much. I'll
process
take
of
it. We'll,
okay.
we'll handle it in post, right, Joe?
No,
Guys, can you fly a drone with a VR thing by just looking in different places?
Oh yeah.
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 I'm looking around because I don't. It's somewhere over there, but yeah, I have. Yes, I don't know
So
if Gloss. I'm sure you can hook up that Oculus now.
I don't know if you can, but there is a whole entire interview Frank has of him talking about that, and
Yeah,
it's like you get that bird's eye view, right, Frank? You're actually in the camera and you're
yeah. When
seeing what you're seeing.
DJI came out with those goggles before, like
right.
the VR goggles and all that, but it was their specific thing where it's you connect it to the aircraft, and I'm not. I'm controlling the camera movements with my head movement. So like if I look that way, like the camera will pan right or look left and up and down and all that kind of stuff. And then they have like little touch controls where you can kind of punch in or do that stuff. I mean, you're still controlling it with your by the actual physical hand control, flying the
You're
aircraft that
flying
way.
it with
But
hand
as far
controls.
as but as far as controlling the how the camera, like what the camera's looking at and that, it's really just your eyes.
Understood. Understood. Joe, you've been extremely quiet this episode.
dude, nobody's asked me a question. What
Because you
am I supposed to
made
do?
fun of me with Pong. I'm sensitive. I'm not
So
robust.
that's it. I'm
I'm not
out. I got
robust.
it. I understood.
I'm not robust.
I'm good. I have nothing to contribute, I guess.
Oh.
So I'm done. Unless you want to talk about old men stuff, I don't get involved in the conversation.
So sensitive over there in your Nickelodeon t-shirt.
Because I don't know what I did to offend Lou, other than say robust in another show.
I love it. This is one of your best words ever. It's better than let me qualify this. Robust is the new one. Okay. On this, I am ending the show robustly by saying, gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate your efforts, your knowledge, and your wisdom, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you next week.
Take care, Lou. Hope I get invited back.
You are. I'm going to go play Pong. I'll see you.
See ya.